Here's a raw acoustic song from Nirvana with a disturbing backstory. It was inspired by real-life events. You see, Kurt Cobain heard this story about a young girl who was at a concert and needed a ride home after the show. It got late, and so she hitchhiked home with some random person, but that ride did not end as planned. She ended up being kidnapped. Thankfully, 2 days later, she escaped, and this song about it ended up on the classic Nirvana album Nevermind, released in 1991. Now, the majority of the album is heavy, distorted guitars, but this track's production is minimal. You've got Kurt Cobain on vocals, an acoustic guitar, light bass, and just a little sort of tapping from Dave Grohl on his lap for percussion. Here's what the opening riff sounds like. All right, so this is the part that's used for the intro and also the verse. It's based on 4 chords. It's essentially an E minor to a G to a D and then a C. But instead of playing those typical open chords, Kurt plays them all as power chords. So they get this real kind of edgy sound, right? Real grunge sound. So the first chord is going to become E5. And I play this with the open 6th string, then the 2nd fret on the 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string. I'm just barring there, just doing a little 2-string bar with the index finger. Then the next chord is G5. So again, instead of playing G like this, play it as a power chord, and that's going to be the 3rd fret of the low E, 5th fret on the 5th string, and 5th fret on the 4th string. Now I'm muting all the other strings, so just get this crunchy sound on the low strings. Then we're going to shift this shape around the neck for the other 2 chords. So what we're going to do is bring it down 1 string set and then shift it up 2 frets. That's going to be the 5th fret on the 5th string, 7th fret on the 4th string, and 7th fret on the 3rd string. Okay, so we've got D5 there, and then we'll shift that down 2 frets to C5, which is 3, 5, 5, starting on the 5th string. So just backing up, we've got E5, G5, D5, C5. Now the song's in the key of E minor, and the main rhythm we're going to use is an 8th note strumming. So your hand's just going to go back and forth, strum hand 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I start with a quarter note though, so 1, just hit that first beat, and then I do 2 scratch strums on beat 2. So I mute the strings, 1, 2, and that's just down, up, and I just release the pressure here, just lightly touch the strings. You don't want to get the strings to sound like that, you just nice and light. So it's 1, 2, and. Then move up to that G chord, go down, up on that G chord, those are 8th notes, 3, and, then do 4 and, muted strums there, down, up on the 4th beat. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, then in the second measure, we're going to play. Okay, so we're going to move from that D chord down to C. And I'm going to go down, up, then mute the strings as I shift to the next chord, and then come in on an up. So my hand's going back and forth. 1 and 2 and. That's called a syncopation, or just, pushing the chord there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, I said there's 4 chords. There's actually one more sneaky one in there. You hear this occasionally, and you don't have to play it. I'll show you a variation where you don't have to play it in a second, but you hear this throughout, just kind of at random. You hear a little slide in there, so. And that's C going down 1 fret, so C5 to B5, which would be 2, 4, 4, starting on the 5th string. So just sliding down there. Now, this is a very common thing you do on guitar. You learn shapes and then you move them around the fretboard. And if you've struggled to understand how the fretboard works like this for rhythm and lead, then go to johnmcclennan.com/fretboard guide and get your hands on my free fretboard guide PDF. This is going to show you 5 chords and 5 scales to unlock the neck, and it works for any style of music. Again, it's completely free. Just go to johnmcclennan.com/fretboard guide and grab that now as my gift to you. So the first 2 measures go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and so on that last 8th note there in the measure, and 4, and you slide that chord down. Now that's tricky because you have to hold the fretted notes down and then keep them ringing as you shift. Otherwise it's going to sound like this. It's just going to stop. It's going to sound like nothing. So if you can get that in there, that's a cool thing to add. So it'll sound like this all together. Then you do it again. Okay, now I said I was going to show you a variation where you don't have to play that. Well, what you do instead, if that's too hard, is just go play the easiest thing ever, and that's just hit the open strings like you don't care. So 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and see that there? That's some rock and roll. So here's what they both sound like together. So that progression goes over and over. You play that for the intro and also the verse sections. Then when you go to the chorus, there's one other part you need to know. It sounds like this. I played it twice there. It's really just a 2-bar chord progression. This one starts on D. So that's up here at the 5th fret on the 5th string. And we're gonna play what we played almost in the 2nd bar of the first part where we went this bar here. We're just gonna leave out that B chord. So it's gonna go, see that? So D to C, and then we're gonna go to G, then go to B flat. This is a new chord here. This is the 1st fret on the 5th string, 3rd fret on the 4th string, 3rd fret on the 3rd string. So it's the same power chord, just in another place on the fretboard. We're gonna go from G to B flat. So the whole B section goes D, C, G, B flat. And we're syncopating those chords. So 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and just strumming back and forth with the strum hand. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. That little syncopation in there. It goes 8 times. Two more times. Last one. And then back to the first part. So just hit those open strings again and go back to the E5. Now the lyrics for that B section are, isn't me, have a seed. Isn't me, have a seed. Right? It just goes over 8 times, okay? So count them out and then go back to the first part. So just those 2 parts you need to know. Now when you end the song, we just end on the E chord. So we go, playing the first riff, and you just end on E5. There you have it. That's a quick look at the guitar style behind Nirvana's haunting acoustic song, Polly. Keep practicing, and if you want to learn songs faster and better understand the fretboard for rhythm and lead, then go to johnmcclennan.com/fretboard guide and grab my free fretboard guide PDF. This is going to show you 5 chords and 5 scales to unlock the neck, and it works for any style. Just go to johnmcclennan.com/fretboard guide and grab that now as my gift to you. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you might like this one next.